Hi, I'm Sarah, and welcome to my channel. So today I want to talk about accounting and mental health. And this is something that I really haven't heard anyone talk about before on YouTube, or really in general. I unfortunately think that this is still a really taboo topic in the world, and especially in the accounting profession, where everyone is a go-getter and wants to appear perfect, so to speak. Talking about mental health can be really difficult for people. My mental health really declined when I was starting out in public accounting. So I started working in public accounting in January as an auditor, and busy season started in February. So I had about a month to settle in. I was studying for the CPA exam, so I was making sure to get a lot of hours of studying in, and I was unassigned at first. So everything was good, and I was really excited to get on to my client. Now I remember right before I went on to my first client, I emailed my senior to introduce myself and to ask if there was anything that I need to know, and also to ask what the hours were. Because my parents were talking about, if I was going to be home for dinner, should they expect me home? And I wanted to know what the hours were going to be like. So my senior responded, and she told me that we were going to be working until 11 p.m. most nights. This really took me by surprise. I knew that public accountants worked late, but I didn't know they worked that late, and I was shocked. But on the other hand, I wasn't too worried about it because I was the kind of person in college who could pull all-nighters and study and really excel in class on little sleep. So I didn't think that I was going to be affected by the long hours. But boy, was I wrong. We started working on this client for busy season. And I remember the schedule was kind of like this. I would get up in the morning, drive about 20 minutes to get to my client. We would get there at 9 o'clock. We'd work from 9 to about noon or 12:30. We'd get lunch and have a working lunch. Then we would work from that time until about 6 o'clock, where we'd get dinner. And then we would basically work from dinner. We sometimes had some light conversation during dinner, but we were also working. And then we would work until 11 o'clock, which I found out is when we would get kicked out of the building. If we didn't get kicked out of the building, we would probably have worked later. And that's just crazy to me because I thought 11 o'clock was already pretty late. On other clients that I worked on, we did work later. We worked till about 12 or 1 in the morning. So at first I was handling the pressure pretty well. I would say the first 2 weeks or so, I had no issues. I was doing my work, getting it on time, and I wasn't experiencing anything that was off with my mental health. But the first indication that something was off with my mental health was that I started feeling like I was going to cry at the drop of a hat. Now, I am not somebody who is a big crier. I am pretty tough generally, but at that time, I felt like I was going to cry all the time. I would cry on my way to work, on my way home from work, and then at work, I would try so hard not to cry, but sometimes I would have to go to the bathroom and cry in a stall because it was just so difficult for me not to cry. The second indication that I had that something was off was that I started to experience a weird relationship with food. The second indication that I had that something was off is that my relationship with food was kind of getting weird. So I remember a lot of the times my team would talk about like what they were doing to stay healthy during busy season, going on fasts and like trying liquid diets while they were working these crazy hours, which is probably not the healthiest thing to do. They would also talk about like how much weight they were going to gain during busy season if they didn't stick to their diet and exercise routine. And I started becoming kind of obsessed with what I was eating, when I was eating, and how many calories I was eating. And thoughts about food were starting to consume my mind and my thoughts way more often than they should have been. The next sign that something was off was that I started isolating myself from my friends. And this was partially me that was doing this, and partially I was doing it because I just didn't have time because I was working Monday through Saturday, these crazy hours. But I wasn't really texting my friends or wanting to hang out. Any chance that I had to lay down and relax, which was usually on Sundays, I would just spend in bed all day. And I think what attributed to all these changes in my mental health was the fact that I wasn't really taking care of myself properly. I was not eating right. I wasn't sleeping very much. And even something like showering, I mean, I would get home at 11:30 p.m. and I would have to choose between taking a shower and going to bed. And oftentimes I chose going to bed because it was an hour more of sleep that I could get. And I'm sorry if that sounds disgusting, but it's the truth, and my mental health was really suffering at the time. I also started talking to some of my other peers at different clients, and a lot of people who were first-year staff members just like me were saying that they were also experiencing difficulties with their mental health. A lot of people were turning to alcohol, and any chance they got, they would drink to excess. A lot of people were also telling me that they were having panic attacks, which was something new for them and something that they hadn't experienced before, and was probably a direct result of not taking care of themselves during busy season. Unfortunately, my mental health didn't really improve for the year that I worked in public accounting. I was always really struggling, really having a hard time keeping up with my friends and my social relationships, having a hard time keeping up with my sleep schedule and my hygiene schedule, and I wasn't really doing any kind of self-care. It wasn't until after I left public accounting that I started seeing a therapist and learning about how I can better take care of myself. Looking back on my experience, I want to tell you some of the things that I would have done differently and that you can do to take care of yourself during busy season and in general while you're working in public accounting. So one thing that I would highly, highly, highly recommend is that you start seeing a therapist. Now, I know a lot of people are like, I don't need therapy, I can handle things on my own, and that's great, and you might be able to, but it's just nice to have somebody there who understands you and understands what you're going through and that you can talk to. I mean, we all see a doctor for our physical health, we get yearly checkups. We should also be getting mental health checkups regularly so that we can stay in touch with how we're feeling mentally. Another thing that I can suggest, and something that I wish I would have done, would be to take breaks. I worked straight through meals all the time. I never took time for myself in public accounting. I barely wanted to get up to use the bathroom because I just had so much work to do and so many deadlines. But one thing I would have done would be to close my laptop during meal times and actually take a break and take time for myself. You can use this time to catch up with friends. You can use this time to journal, which is something I'll talk about in a minute. Or you can just use this time to sit and mindfully eat lunch. And it may be really scary to take a break. You may feel like you can't because you have so much work to do. But I can assure you that if you take the time to take a break and let your mind rest, you'll be more refreshed afterwards and more productive during the rest of your day. So I just mentioned journaling, which is something that I would also suggest that you do. Keeping a log of your feelings and emotions and what you're going through can really help you work things out while you're in the midst of a really busy time and you don't have a lot of time for yourself. Journaling has almost like a magic ability to help you sort things out without having to think about them and dwell on them for a long time. It helps get your thoughts out from your brain and onto a piece of paper so that you're not sitting in them and letting yourself dwell on them. Another thing that I would have done would be to try my best to get more sleep. This is almost impossible without talking to someone on your team about it, because if you don't talk to anybody about it, you'll be dismissed at a really late hour and have to come in really early. So one thing that I would do is to talk to your upper management and ask them if it's possible to leave maybe an hour or two earlier than the rest of the team on at least a few days of the week. I would let them know that you're having trouble with your energy levels and that if you get a little bit of more sleep, you'll be more productive during the day. And I think if you really drive home the point that you'll actually be more productive if you get more sleep, they won't have a problem with you doing this and leaving a couple hours early. And you can even ask them to let you prove yourself. Maybe ask them to do it for a week as a trial run, and if you are not able to keep up with your deadlines, you'll go back to the old way of going home when everyone else does. But maybe if you can prove that you actually can get your work done while still going home an hour or two early, they'll let you continue doing it. I know for me, after 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, I wouldn't be able to get very much work done anyway. I'm not a night person, and I would just be exhausted from the entire day staring at a screen. And I would really have preferred if I would have been able to go home, get some sleep, and wake up in the morning feeling refreshed and ready to get my work done. Now, things are still very taboo when it comes to mental health, but luckily, over the past couple of years, I've noticed a shift where firms are starting to recognize things like Mental Health Awareness Week, and they're starting to do things like offer up free therapy for their employees. So if your firm does this, please take advantage of it and use it to your advantage when you talk to your managers and partners about mental health. So there you have it. Those are some of my tips for maintaining good mental health while you're working in public accounting, specifically during busy season. And I also told you a little bit about my story with mental health while I was working. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to subscribe to my channel. I plan on posting more videos about business, finance, and the Big Four. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon. Bye.